I want you to watch a clip of Ben Shapiro eviscerating the Biden administration's condemning and conditional support to Israel in their fight against the evil Hamas. Have a listen to what Shapiro says.
Okay, meanwhile, the Biden administration, in an attempt to pay off its pro-Hamas voters in Michigan particularly, is now putting pressure on Israel to literally leave Hamas in place in Rafah. Rafah is the last outpost of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. There are apparently 4 battalions of terrorists in the Gaza Strip. I remind you once again, there are actual Americans who are being held by Hamas. And the Biden administration is putting pressure on Israel. Why? Because they don't like the bad images on TV of things called war. War, it turns out, is really ugly and really terrifying. And lots of people die in wars, which is why you shouldn't start one with a militarily superior country by killing 1,200 of its citizens and taking 250 of them hostage. And the fact that the West now believes that the moral stain is on Israel in defending itself and attempting to kill off Hamas while gaining back its hostages is a moral sickness. It is a moral sickness, what we are seeing in the West. Forget about the impact on Israel. Think about the fact that the United States is now telling a Democratic ally it cannot extirpate 4 battalions of actual terrorists knowing precisely where they are because it might be too mean on the TVs. Again, the actual math that the administration has now engaged in because they want to win Michigan. It's perfectly cynical. They just want to win Michigan. But the actual math for the future of combat for American troops in future conflicts is going to be very simple. If you are a bad guy, here is what you do. You do something really bad to America. Then you go and hide behind women and children. And then apparently, it's like when you're playing tag and you're a kid and the tree is safe. If you go and hide behind women and children, which is a war crime, then the idea is you have some sort of immunity. So Hamas now has immunity specifically because it is acting worse than a normal army. So the Geneva Conventions were designed to incentivize people to not engage in terrorism. This is, for example, why you're allowed to treat people out of uniform differently than you treat people in uniform. If you capture someone in uniform, they become a prisoner of war. If you capture somebody out of uniform, they're now an enemy combatant. And they get treated differently by the law under international. Why? Because the goal was to convince people not to engage in terroristic activities that endanger civilians. That's the entire purpose of things like the Geneva Conventions. Well, now the West has turned this completely on its head. So if, in fact, you're fighting in an army with a uniform on, then we all understand you can be droned from above, you can be killed using any form or fashion of military largesse that can be brought to bear. If, however, you dress in civilian clothing, murder a child in a kibbutz, run back into Gaza, and hide behind another child, now you're immune, according to the United States. Because the duty is to the United States, apparently, and to the West, not to harm the second child, even though you cannot save any future children if you allow the terrorists to remain in place. It doesn't matter. The West has turned. Why? Because Joe Biden is attempting to please his left-wing radical base. And this is true in most of these countries.
Ben's completely right. And by the way, if we say, well, we can't attack them because they're using human shields, then they're going to keep using human shields. And even more people are going to suffer in the long run. It's only by saying, we won't stop fighting you even if you use human shields, that they're no longer going to be incentivized from using human shields. The whole thing is sick, and it just shows how lacking in any moral understanding and moral grounding so much of the world is, including the leaders of the free world. And therefore Israel needs to follow her own God-given morality and not rely on the world lecturing them when they haven't got a clue. Hi everybody, thanks for watching. If you want to watch another one, click here. If you want to subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest JTV content, click here. And if you're feeling really keen, you can click the join button down below underneath this video, where you can get perks including early access to new videos and private live discussions with me, where we can talk about JTV content and strategy moving forward, and I'll get to hear from you. Thanks again for watching.